So our umbrella parent company is GW Murphy, Inc., a company my father started back in 1977. So we operate under different business entities, each one with their own specific purpose and their market that they serve. So we have Ray's Roofing Supply in Indiana and Illinois. We have Murphy's Roofing Supply, which serves Mississippi and Louisiana. I have American Roofing Supply, which also is in Louisiana. I have GW Murphy Wholesale, which does national distribution. Two distributors, it's two-step distribution. And then I have a small hardware store in Chicago, Illinois called Cottage Grove Hardware.
We started in 1976 by my dad, Mike. It really started off as strictly just a roofing company. And then over the years, it's really transformed into a home services company. So currently we do roofing, siding, window installations all around Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana. I think for me, it's really about three things. I'd say vision, values, and risk. Kind of in that order. I think for the most part, small business owners, contractors, they don't have a vision or a roadmap for where they want to go. And I'm sure Gary sees this in his business dealing with so many different contractors. There's no clear path. And so when there's not a clear path, people are just confused about where they're going. So I think that's an important part. Values, to me, when we implemented clear stated values within the company, it made everything so much easier. It's the way that we hire, it's the way we promote, it's the way that ultimately if we have to fire somebody, it makes sense, right? You're not in alignment with our values. And then the risk part that I was talking about, I would say small business owners are afraid to take risk. And so as a result, the business stagnates and people they don't get excited about that. They want to know, where's this thing going and what's my career path and how am I a part of it?
Yep. No, I agree. Hearing the question and hearing your answer, kind of adding to that, I think a lot of it has to do with not knowing really who you are, like doing a self-analysis. As a small business owner, often you're going day to day, just getting gritty, hustling, working hard, just trying to make things happen. But really just taking a step back and doing a SWOT analysis of yourself and saying, hey, where am I strong? What are my strengths? And also, where are my weaknesses? Where are my company's strengths and weaknesses? And I agree with the thing of just play to your strengths. Yeah, you need to address your weaknesses as well, but do both. Yeah, strengthen yourself where you're weak, stabilize yourself, and then play to those strengths and really celebrate what you're best at. I think that's when we all shine.
Yeah, I think both experiences, right? So a company is only going to be as strong as the person leading it, and a company's only going to grow as fast as the person who's leading it, right?
That's the truth.
Yeah, great question. To me, what I've tried to do personally is it's about being stable, right? So you have some crazy times, and I think if you can be stability for people, that just provides a calmness, right? And not too many things in the world today are calm or stable, and there's a lot of chaos. So if we can provide that stability here within our organization, I think that helps. It just gives them a certain level of certainty. And then, the other thing I would say is people want to win, right? Like, I know Gary's big on this. I mean, people want to be on a team that's winning. And so if you can provide an environment that has stability and where people can see a clear path to how they win and how they're a part of it,
right?
I think that is the answer for us.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think as far as keeping them motivated, I think it's one of those things you can't wait till you want to motivate somebody until you motivate them. But I think really communication is the key, constant communication. of where the business is at currently, where it's headed. And, I don't think there's one magic bullet to really do that. I think you actually got to mix it up quite a bit and try different forms of communications to the entire team. But yeah, and then just motivating them, like even the little successes, even if it's minor, just sharing that with the entire team. Because a lot of times people don't realize what another group of people within the organization is working on or what they're achieving. But I find that sharing that message with everyone is really motivating, even if it wasn't something they were directly involved with.
Yeah, I think taking time to celebrate, Gary and I probably could agree, that's something that we've had to learn over the years.
Right.
Sometimes when you're going about your day-to-day business and the team's doing good and you hit a certain milestone, it's like, okay, well, what's the next milestone, right?
Exactly.
And so for us, I think we've challenged each other. You got to take a moment, not too long, but take that moment, celebrate, and then let's move on and let's go to the next challenge, right?
Absolutely. I completely agree. Yeah, so that's a really great question, and that's an important one. And to be honest, it's one I really didn't think enough about early on in business, but have thought a lot about in the last few years. I'm fortunate, though, that my father's values and my values pretty much match almost in every area. So I had an advantage that I don't think every second-generation company has with the values that were already in place. They weren't defined, but they existed. A few years ago, and Nick, you were talking about values earlier, a few years ago, I kind of took a step back and I actually hired a consultant to help coach me through it. For 6 months, I focused on values. And what I learned in a short period of time, it's not who I wanted to be or what our company needed to be. It's who we were when we were operating at our best. So I look back, and it goes back to the strengths things again. And I look back at our strengths from a values standpoint and really identified those. And Nick, I know you've done something as well like that. And
absolutely.
You have Stiggy, right?
That's right.
Yep. So ours is gritty. So for us, it's the golden rule. It's respect. It's integrity. It's teamwork, trustworthiness, and yes-mindedness. And so those weren't things that I love gritty because it represents the hard work, but what's behind the hard work is the values. So that's more than the technical things. I think that's always changing, but I think the values is the core of who we are and really the reason for our success.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, from a value side or technical skills, I don't know how technical these are, but I would agree with Gary. He's elaborated on the values piece. I'd say beyond vision, which we already talked about. Two I would throw in there would be empathy and connection. And there probably couldn't be a better guest than this guy to help talk about that. I've learned a ton from Gary over the years just about empathy and connection. And what I mean by that is in these small businesses, right, like 150 people or less, you have to connect with people, right? Like people have to know that you care and they have to know that they belong. And that's not always the easiest thing to do. It's not always the most convenient thing to do. But I think we've both been a beneficiary of when you put in that hard work and you look to connect with people. The rest of it is pretty easy, right?
Yeah,
so and these guys have done a great job of that over the years, and it's something that I think we keep improving on. I mean, overall, I think our business hasn't had to adapt as much as some of the others. Certainly there's industries out there, restaurant, hospitality, big changes, right? Personally, I'd say internally, if anything, it's probably just caused us to be more people focused. And sometimes it might sound kind of like a cliche, like where you're not people focused before, right? But
Right.
I think what I mean by that is it goes back to some of the earlier discussion we were having just about uncertainty. And so I think if we can do a great job of just keeping our team stable, investing in people, making sure that they're taken care of, that they feel like there's some consistency. That's probably the biggest change that we've experienced over the last 2 years, just making sure that we do that on a even more regular basis than before.
Right. Yeah, similar. Like we didn't really have a big change. It wasn't forced with change, but I would say the biggest change that I personally went through was expecting there to be change. And so it caused me to be proactive and to read more, do more research, getting more engaged with my staff, expecting that change was coming down the pipeline. And so one thing I realized by doing all that is that I had a wall there. There's a way I did business, and that's how I thought I was going to be successful. And so I had always done many of the same things over and over again. But by exploring it and talking to other business leaders like yourself, I think I learned something. It changed how I did business, not necessarily because of the obstacles, because I had to.
Right.
But because I did the research and started networking and asking other people how they do things. And I learned a lot. So it was what I thought was going to be a problem and need to shift the business really wasn't. I saw new opportunities through that self-discovery and looking into other things.
Yeah, I think if anything, just to add on to what you're saying, it's not so much in either one of our industries that we were forced to change. I think it just gave us the opportunity to be able to reimagine what something could look like, right? Was there a way to do something differently? I know that you end up traveling a little bit for your business. Is there a time where you could connect with a customer because it was only going to be a half-hour meeting and, you might save 2 days of travel, right? Things like that.
Yeah.
But they were all good options, just things we were able to choose rather than being forced into something.
Absolutely. So I get back to what I said earlier. I think you really need to figure out your arena, like know 100% what your arena is, what you're best at, your wheelhouse, and then from there, set hard but yet achievable goals. I mean, shoot big, not small little goals that you can achieve, but ones that would be challenging. And then after that, and Nick and I think, are this to each other, but surround yourself with people that you respect, that will challenge you. I think that's really important, just developing a peer group, a network of people. And then once you have that and you have your goals in place, I think the next step is to get tactical. And that's a word that I'm often saying to my team. It's one thing to have a strategy, another one's to get tactical. That's to make individual defined steps. That if you hit this step, the next step, that you're heading in the right direction as you achieve those things. But really, and that's the last part, I think, is just to get to work and don't let anybody out hustle you. Yeah. And really to be at the best, I love the saying, be the best version of yourself. And so like on my whiteboard, I have that on there. That's the only thing I keep on my whiteboard every day. Be the best version of yourself every day. And I believe that. So as long as I'm hustling, working hard, and being true to who I am, because I know who I am when I'm at my best, I win.
Yeah. It's hard to improve upon what Gary shared. I think the surrounding yourself with great people as a business leader is super important, right? You got to get out of your own head sometimes and then get that objective view. Beyond that, though, it goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning here. You got to know where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, you for sure ain't going to get there, right?
Exactly.
So you have that going on. And then I think the piece of protecting your culture, in the last number of years, I've just seen how critical this is that, one bad egg is a really big deal to any culture, right? And so you get what you tolerate. So you have to just be so protective over the culture that you work on. And then, finally, I'd say you need to invest in people even before you think that maybe you need them. And
That's true.
that's a big one, right? So it's
is.
always hard when you're running a business and, maybe, financially, things can be tight. You have to say to yourself, who do I need 3 years from now?
Absolutely.
Right? And then you have to go out and you just have to be making those good connections and finding really good people.
Yeah.
Because if you get the right people, the rest, I believe, takes care of itself.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had somebody ask me a few years ago, they're like, hey, what's the number one challenge in your business? And like they threw out a few things that they thought were the right answers. And I'm like, no, you're crazy. It's leadership.
Right.
It's leadership. And it's almost like you got to toss it on its head.
Yeah.
And if I'm here and I want to be here and it's doubling the size, well, I got to have leaders to do it. I can't do it all by myself.
Right.
So you got to get ahead of it rather than trying to catch up to it.
Yeah, I would agree.
So I forgot one of my businesses.
Oh, go ahead.
You want me to tell him?